I think I've proven over the last 8 years that I don't really care about political optics. I care about right and wrong. And if I have a choice to make, I think I've proven over the last 8 years that I have a choice to make between my family and political optics, that I'm going to pick my family. And in case you think that's just empty rhetoric, let me remind you of my 2010 trip to Disney World, or of my 2012 trip on the helicopter to my son's baseball game. My family is simply the most important thing in my life. And so when my son invited a group of friends a month ago to come to visit with him from London and California and Washington, D.C., for the 4th of July weekend, he was traveling from Milwaukee to do it. We don't get a lot of time to spend together as a family anymore. And have them and many of his close friends and my daughter's close friends to be with us, I simply wasn't going to cancel that because Vinny Prieto couldn't get 41 votes for a budget. Now, let's be really clear. That's our residence. And we have a right to be there whenever we want to be there. The same way that if we were living in Drumthwacket and we had this shutdown and the staff would have to leave, I wouldn't move out of Drumthwacket and go and stay in a hotel. If I was like Governor McGreevey, for instance, and didn't have my own private residence in the northern part of the state. So we're permitted to be there wherever we want, but we didn't ask for any services while we were there. There were no lifeguards. There was no garbage collection. There was none of the normal things that happen when we stay at that house. I understand it's a holiday weekend and the news channels don't have anything else to cover. And when I answered Claude's question yesterday, or the day before, whatever day it was, I don't count going out on the beach after I've been working all morning to sit and talk with my wife and our guests for 40 minutes before I had to leave to come back to work as getting sun. That wasn't what I was out there to get. The way I took Claude's question was, hey, were you like out laying out getting a tan today? That wasn't what I was doing, and that's not what those pictures show. Sitting there with a baseball hat and shorts and a T-shirt talking to my wife and talking to our guests. I don't apologize for it. I don't back away from it. And I think my poll numbers show that I don't care about political optics. What I care about is doing what's right and wrong. And what was right for my family was for my family to be together and for me to be with them and to do what we were doing. And the implication today was that, no one was on the beach in New Jersey yesterday but me. And that's what those pictures implied. And that's what a lot of the national news media was erroneously reporting, when we know that the beaches in New Jersey were jammed and that of our 130 miles rather, of coastline, 119 of them were open yesterday. Only 11 miles of them were closed in Island Beach State Park. So I understand, probably better than any other governor who's had this job, what it's like to get a lot of attention. And that cuts both ways. But if you think for a second that what happened over the last 24 hours would bother me a bit or make me change my mind about the way I interact with my wife and my children, no job, not this one or any other, is more important to me than my relationship with my wife and my relationship with my kids. And, shame on those people who wanted to make this as if we were taking advantage of something. I just don't agree with it, and I don't believe it. And quite frankly, this is who I am. And I've never pretended to be anything else. And that's why I told people starting on Monday on the Ask the Governor show, knowing that there could be a shutdown, that's where I was going to be. And so I love the hyperbole from NJ Advanced Media. Here's how we caught the governor. Here's how we outsmarted the governor. It's one of the great, I said this morning on TV, one of the great bits of investigative journalism of all time. They investigated and found out that a politician was where he said he was going to be with who he said he was going to be with. Now, if they had flown that plane over that beach and I was sitting next to a 25-year-old blonde in that beach chair next to me, that's a story. I wasn't sitting next to a 25-year-old blonde. I was sitting next to my wife of 31 years, surrounded by my children and some of their best friends. If that's a scandal I'm guilty of every day of my life. Being committed to my wife and to my children first. And that's not always easy in public life, to be committed to your wife and your children first. And sometimes you take hits for it. But I'm happy to take the hit for it. And my son came to me yesterday and apologized to me and said to me, "I'm sorry, Dad, that I got you all this heat because I invited all these people to be here." And I looked at him and I said, "You never have to apologize to me for that ever. I'm the adult here. I'm the guy who made the decisions, and I don't have one regret, not one." So they can have as much fun with me on cable news as they want. They've lauded me. They've criticized me, just as all of you have. But in the end, when this job ends, I'm going to be going home to the very same people I'm going home to tonight. Mary Pat, Andrew, Sarah, Patrick, and Bridget. And when you guys are just a memory to me, they'll be my life. And so I don't get concerned about this stuff. And I know there's some people who don't believe that and some people who say, oh, it affected his negotiating ability. I'll tell you something, man. I got exactly what I wanted tonight. Doesn't affect my ability to do my job. And if anybody thinks I haven't been doing my job the last number of days, they should see my schedule. I've been doing my job, and I've been here every day. Not every legislator's been here every day, even though they were called to be here. I was here every day and sat and worked and got my job done. So I lean into it, everybody. This is who I am, and I've never pretended to be anything other than that. And you can call it and characterize it whatever you want, and I'm sure you will. But what I am doing in my mind is having my priorities in the right order. And my wife and my children are my most important priorities in my life. They're the dearest people in my life. They're the people that I love the most and who I am most responsible for. But what I'll also tell you is they have never prevented me for a minute from doing my job. And the implication of anything otherwise is disgraceful. You may not always agree with everything I do, but nobody is going to be able to say that I haven't put everything into this job and given everything I have to the people of this state and to this job. And that's about the only thing that's been implied over the last 24 hours that bothered me. The rest of it, I think I'm a pretty good father and a pretty good husband. Not perfect, but pretty good. And that's the way I care to be judged. In the end, my legacy is the marriage I've had and the children that that marriage produced. And the rest of this is just kind of background music. That's what really matters in your life, and that's what will always matter to me the most.